So yeah, let's rank some Pokemon. Starting off, we have... It's very awkward not having my mouse visible, because I have to look over to the other screen. We have Bulbasaur. So look, it's like I like Bulbasaur's design. It's very Gen 1. That weird, goofy thing. But let's start with my history with Gen 1. I technically, since people talk about what gen you are in terms of mainline game, I would technically be called a Gen 3er. I grew up with Gen 1. I know the Gen 1 Pokemon, but I didn't have a mainline game until the GBA. So I grew up, well, no, I grew up. I started playing with Fire Red and Ruby. So yeah, that's my introduction to the series in terms of mainline. But like, I played Snap back in the day. I had the trading cards. I saw bits and pieces of the anime. So it's like, I was introduced to Pokemon in Gen 1 and all the Gen 1 mons, but I didn't have to deal with the clunkiness of the Gen 1 and 2 games, so... So yeah, that's Gen 1. I grew up with it, but I never played the original games. Ivysaur. I kind of feel neutral on Ivysaur. It's very much a case of middle stage itis. It's not bad, but it doesn't stand out. It kind of just has like that, you know, the inability to have its own identity outside of its former and latter, and a lot of Pokemon are like that. There are some people who like the mid-stage. Like, we'll get to a few examples of my own, but a lot of the time they're either just a mediocre, or like a half step up, or they're so detached from the other two forms that it feels odd to have it in the middle. But yeah, that is Ivysaur. I'm not going to dwell on a lot of the Pokemon too long because there's a lot of them. Okay, so next up, Venusaur. So I'm going to admit it, I do like Venusaur's design. For anyone who remembers Stadium, Stone Venusaur. Yeah, Venusaur like has a great design, but in terms of like typing, it's nothing to write home about. Grass Poison was so common in Gen 1. Like, it was more common to find a Grass Poison type than pure grass. So it's not really anything to write home about in terms of that. And Venusaur like gets a little bit of love, but I definitely feel like the Bulbasaur Venusaur line definitely... It definitely got like the short straw out of the three Gen 1 starters. That honestly, there is one in every generation that just like gets the short straw. Charmander. One of the more notable Pokédex entries. Look, honestly, I kind of feel mixed. It's like, it's just the lizard with its tail on fire. I don't hate the design, and I don't hate the Pokemon, but I kind of just feel meh. You know? Like, it's nothing against Charmander as a whole, but it's kind of just that meh sort of thing. Charmeleon I like better. Honestly, that's because of, like, the improvement as the years have gone on. Charmeleon has become more distinctive of design from Charmander. Particularly with, like, you know, its distinct red palette, its more noticeable claws, the single horn of its head is kind of meh, but like early Charmander, hang on, can I? Give me a sec. You can see he's changed a lot. This is Gen 1, the US sprite, so red and blue. Charmeleon. The boy's changed a lot. Like, we went from this goofy fella to this. He's definitely had the glow up over the years. Next is Charizard. There's not much to say. Charizard is popular for a reason. He is one of the few Gen 1 Pokemon to have the pseudo-dragon sort of status. There were only like... There's only one dragon line, so 3 actual dragon Pokemon, and yet Charizard, Gyarados, and Aerodactyl have like this pseudo-dragon status. Mostly because Lance uses them, but like, you can't knock the design. It's good. It's good, it's sleek, it works. It's not overly designed like how some later Pokemon are. We'll get to them. But yeah, that Charizard's just kind of like a, you know, Charizard. And now we're going to reveal myself a lot more. My pick for starter is, of course, Squirtle. I like the goofy little guy. I actually like Wartortle's design a lot. Like, I really do. I know a lot of people actually don't like the fluffy ears, the fluffy tail. I do. Squirtle is just my go-to starter, and Blastoise is going to be the first one to get the favorite status because Blastoise was always my pick for a starter in Gen 1. Or in Kanto, I should say. Okay, now we're going to start doing lightning round sort of stuff. And then next is Arbok. Arbok actually I like. But not because like I like to use it or I like the design, but this is a trait of Arbok that most people probably don't know actually. A reset size. We'll quickly go look up Arbok just so that I can like point it out.
Nah.
Yeah. Hey, Hallie. Okay, so Arbok. So we'll scroll all the way down to its sprite work. So notice how its sprite, the image on its chest changes in the games. This was for a time part of its dex entry that Arbok from different areas had different patterns on its... What the hell is it called? Frills? I don't know. We should be able to find it in the dex entries. I think it's... should be in its fire red and leaf green. There it is. The pattern on its belly appears to frighten fair spots. Okay, Ah, there it is. It's an Ultra Sun. Latest researchers determined that there were over 20 arrangements of the pattern on its stomach. That's a cool little bit of lore. It's a shame that it's kind of just disappeared to the wayside. There aren't different patterns of Arbok. But we've got different patterns on other Pokemon. So it's like, why the heck not? Come on. We could do with it. It's a great idea that they're just missing out on because Arbok is like a mid-tier Pokemon at best. I mean, it's pure poison type. It's not winning any awards for like being anything special, particularly being pure poison. Okay. Pikachu. 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 I'm going to admit it, I hate this little freaking rodent. And you know why? Because I like Raichu. I like Raichu. And because of that, Pikachu is the absolute bane of my existence. Okay, context. Because Pikachu is the mascot, it means that there is all these little things that Game Freak throws Pikachu's way. It gets the light ball, it gets its own special move, it gets its own special like forms and promotion stuff and everything, and Raichu gets screwed every which way. My first Pokemon card that I ever had was a Raichu. I like Raichu. I think it's neat. I've tried to use it on a couple of occasions, but because Pikachu is around, Pikachu just gets shafted, poor Raichu just gets shafted for it. For just existing. For being Pikachu's evolution. Like, honestly, if you could separate the two Pokemon and Pikachu be its own thing and Raichu be its own thing, Raichu would be so much better off. But no. It has to be chained down to being Pikachu's inferior evolution. And then we got Alolan Raichu, and it's like, everything that I like about Raichu, Alolan Raichu does wrong. Raichu is like, you know, more menacing looking. It's got more edges and everything. And then Alolan Raichu is like, I'm a fluffy, fuzzy, pudgy, round, lovable thing. I want Raichu. I mean, sure, it gets, like, Electric Surge as an ability, and it gets, it's, I'm pretty sure it's Psychic type it gets. It could be Fairy. Doesn't matter. Either way, it's not great. Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff. Look, I'm gonna be honest. I hate the Puffball, but it has nothing to do with Pokemon. I play Smash Brothers, like Smash 64 speedrunning. Jigglypuff is one of the toughest characters to run for me. So that's why. I have nothing against the Puffball in terms of, like, playing Pokemon, it's kind of a nothing, but yeah. Yeah, like that's what I was saying, like anything that's part ice is really hard to like put higher than like. I like the design, but it's just not viable for like using on a team without having to cover its weaknesses. And I guess Wigglytuff, it's like, I really don't like Wigglytuff's design. Something about that, its soulless eyes. Zubat. So a lot of people would probably say they hate Zubat. I'm sure a lot of sane people would say that because, oh, well, I'm sure most people know the meme. Walk into a cave. Zubat. 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 But no, I like Zubat. And I actually like Golbat as well. It's a shame that his tongue is gone. He had this freaky... Actually, I'll look it up. So that's modern Golbat. But if we go down, 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 down to its old sprites. There we go. That goofy ass tongue. Like, it's a shame that it doesn't have it anymore. But yeah, I like Golbat. Part of the reason I like Golbat is he's not in this generation because he's a Gen 2 Pokemon. I really like Crobat. I've used Crobat on a couple of teams to beat various Pokemon games. He's fast. He has Confuse Ray, which is 100% confusion chance, at least in the games that it was in. So he was really good to just throw in, confuse, and then work on chip damage because I often don't use optimal teams. I tend to have my weird likes when it comes to Pokemon. Abra is kind of meh. It's an iconic design, but I don't particularly like it. Kadabra's design also is just like, I feel weird on. And Alakazam, how do I put it? Alakazam, I don't hate the design. Yes, broken, because the psychic type was broken. And special, how special worked was broken, which worked in the favor of psychic type and basically any Pokemon that used special. Alakazam was also fast. But that's the reason why I don't particularly like Alakazam, is it meant that every other psychic type was basically not worth investing in because Alakazam pushes them out of the water. And to be honest, Alakazam, like, isn't a... He isn't a bad Pokemon, but I feel like he's... What's the word? He had the deck stacked in his favor too much. Yeah, he's quick, but frail, but because of how Gen 1 mechanics work, being quick was better than being bulky, because of how crits work, and since elemental punches, until Generation 4, were classed as special moves, even when special was split into attack and defense in Gen 2, Alakazam was just busted. Like, honestly, Alakazam had been the top pick for non-legendary psychic types for so many generations. Which is kind of a shame because there are a lot of, like, interesting designs in later ones that, like, Alakazam is just like, if you're not using Alakazam, it's an underrated pick. So yeah, I can't bring myself to, like, dislike or hate Alakazam, but he's definitely not like a Pokemon that I like. And now we get into the point where I show my bias. Magnemite and Magneton are my favorite Pokemon. They are my absolute favorite Pokemon. So yeah, they're just going up there automatically. There was no exceptions to that. Grimer is kind of meh, Muck is kind of meh. At least the regular ones are. I don't mind Alolan Muck, like I like it. Grimer. But Alolan Muck? My boy got a real glow up there. He is a huge improvement over the Gen 1 version. Like, the rainbow coloring of the sludge is so much better. He benefits so much from the dark typing. Like, it is a real glow up from regular Grimer and Muck. And part of that is, you know, again, Gen 1 had a limited color palette. So that's why they can do that with Alolan Muck. And I'm pretty sure that's the reason why he was picked. It's like, we could do something interesting with that design really easily that we couldn't do before. Voltorb and Electrode I've kind of felt meh on the whole time. They're not bad Pokemon, but design-wise they're so basic. But then we got the Hisuian versions. And honestly, Hisuian Electrode has grown on me a lot while doing Pokemon Legends. I actually like it. It's a decent electric type, and its grass typing doesn't hurt it as much as I thought it might. Like, sure, it gives it, like, a weakness to fire and poison and such. But it's still got, like, the solid Electrode stats that, honestly, you can play around them. I wouldn't say it's a favorite per se. It is still an Electrode, but it's definitely more interesting than the base one. Goldeen and Seeking, oh god. I don't like Goldeen because it's very, like, it's kind of a mad design, but Seeking I have a personal vendetta with because of its Oko one-hit move. Caused me so much trouble in, I think it was Diamond? There was just a trainer that had one that would just go for the Oko move, and because my Pokemon was slow, it got to hit first, and it got really lucky with its coin flips because I feel like it used a, it used some sort of accuracy spec or some sort of modifier, so it was basically just getting like free KOs on me. It was a pain in the neck. I don't like Seeking thanks to that. That and it's a pathetic design, to be honest. Like, seriously, it's just a fish. There are so many Pokemon that are like that, that Seeking isn't even that special nowadays. I'm gonna be honest, I don't particularly like legendary Pokemon. So, yeah. Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, I don't particularly like them. And then when it comes to, like, their new forms, it's like, Zapdos is the only one I feel like the least offended by. I don't like the other two. Like, I know, like, my whole thing is like, oh, it's edgy as hell, but I feel like it's... Galarian Moltres has gone too far into that edgy territory. And it's come back around to being, like, too edgy for its own good. And then we get to the dragons. Dratini and Dragonite I kind of feel meh on. I like Dragonair. I feel like Dragonair's design is sleek and good, and it's a shame it turns into Dragonite. Also, fun fact, if you go to the Pokedex entries, Dragonair is registered as taller than Dragonite. This is not an error. This is because all Serpentine Pokemon, so Dratini, Dragonair, Gyarados, Seviper, Arbok, all of them are measured from head to tail. So they're measured differently, so they are all actually longer than normal. So there's a fun little fact for you. Dragonair is taller than Dragonite, solely because of how Serpentine Pokemon are measured. Mewtwo. Let's be honest, Mewtwo is iconic. And I don't hate the design as much as some legendaries, but again, I don't particularly like legendary Pokemon because I don't like to use them. I feel they're overpowered and just like win more sort of mons. And I hate being forced to catch certain Pokemon, so yeah. Like, to be fair, Gen 1 and Gen 2 weren't as offensive with it, but Gen 3 onwards, it's like, you gotta catch them all. You gotta go catch the legendaries. You have to go catch them. So annoying. You can tell I have a real love-hate relationship with the game, with the franchise. Mew. I don't like it, I don't hate it. So there we go, that's Gen 1. Just Gen 1. So you note that I feel very neutral to Gen 1 as a whole, and there are very few that I actually hate.